right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the January 2022 EAC committee meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order. First item on the agenda is to welcome a couple of new folks this month. First up is Matt Hartman, our new committee member. Welcome, Matt. And we'll also welcome Jack Casey, our new town council liaison. So what I'd like to do, and I know we've done this several times here the past couple of months, we've had lots of new folks. Hi, Jack. We've done this a couple of times the past few months, but I'd like to go ahead and just kind of go around and introduce ourselves. And what I'd like to do is the existing EAC members, and John, you could do this too, just real quick, your name, maybe how long you've been on the EAC, and what are your favorite projects on the EAC? What have you worked on? What are you hoping to work on? And anything else you'd like to add. So I'll go ahead and start. I'm Judy Bishop. I've been on the EAC since I think 2019 and chair for about a year and a half. My time on the committee, I guess my big involvements have been, I worked on the landscape planting guide, and I've worked with speaker series and just chairperson activities. By trade, I'm a civil engineer. I do traffic work. Not necessarily environmental, but I'm really enjoying learning more about those types of things and stormwater and anything else that affects the town. So next up, I'll just call out names because I guess we all see names and different faces in different places. So John, why don't you go ahead next? Bujarski.
Okay. I'm John Bujarski. I'm not actually a member of the EAC. I work for the town and I help out the EAC sometimes with stuff like this. I've worked there since 2016. And a couple of the fun projects that I've been involved with the committee. The first one we do every month are the environmental tips that go in the mail newsletter. And the other one that I would do a lot of times with Dave would be the commercial recycling. I wouldn't call it enforcement. I would say it's education, where we just stop the different businesses in the town just to say, hey, by law, you guys are required to recycle X, Y, Z. We did do that for a couple of years until, the recycling industry kind of took a little bit of a dive a few years ago, but hopefully someday we'll start that up again.
Okay, next one I see on my screen is Ken.
Hi, I'm Ken Allshouse. I'm one of the original members. David and I came on when EAC started. Big project I worked on last year was with council to do some deer management for McCandless Township to try to get suburban whitetail hunters established on township land, and then hopefully other landowners will avail themselves at least to their philosophy of harvesting some deer. Currently, I'm going to be working on the Wall Park Trail. I was responsible for that a few years ago, and then it was out of my hands for a few years, and now it's back in my hands again. So that's principally what I'm working on. Just real quick on my background, my original degree is in forest science. Couple other degrees in there too. I own timberland. I'm active with the Friends of North Park, and I'm also on the board for the American Chestnut Foundation. That's what's pertinent for here. Thank you.
Thanks, Ken. All right, Dawn, I've got you next.
Hey, hi. I only just joined the EAC in October, so I'm really new, still trying to get my feet underneath me and figure things out. But I joined the EAC mainly, I've always been involved in the litter pickup programs that have gone on, and I do enjoy those. Dave Minert heads those up for us. But I joined the EAC here recently because I, want to get more involved about stormwater. And I also want to work more on developing the green spaces that we have, or at least developing programs or activities like citizen science type activities inside the green spaces that we already have. So those are the projects that I'm most excited about. And the reason that I think part of what brought me to the EAC at this time too is I'm working on getting my Penn State Master Watershed Steward certification. I'm just a couple hours away from it at this point. So knee deep in stormwater over here on Pine Creek.
All right, thanks, Dawn. Dave, I have you next.
Yep. Hi, everybody. My name is Dave Meinert. I've been, like Ken said, one of the original members of the EAC back maybe 5 years ago or so, back when none of us knew what we were doing and just tried to figure things out as we went along. My main project has been on the litter cleanup, and we do 2 volunteer roadside litter cleanups per year, fall and spring. So that takes a lot of organization and planning and that kind of stuff. And John, of course, helps out a lot with that. We have an item on the agenda. I'll try to give you a short update or some background into what the litter program has been about the past few years under that item. But my background is civil environmental engineering. I was 30 years in consulting, water, wastewater, environmental. Came to Pittsburgh from Boston for CSO, combined sewer overflow projects. Was laid off in 2014, started renovating houses, renovated 5 foreclosed houses completely. So that's what I do now. And I'm a landlord, which is pretty interesting too. And I guess that's about it.
All right, thanks, Dave. Jonathan.
Jonathan Bernstein. Let's hear. I think I've been on the EAC for a year-ish. I don't even know. I'm not 100% sure. I guess I'll just go until somebody tells me to stop. Maybe that, and that might be my wife. So, I think at this point I've worked on some oil and gas ordinance, just kind of oversight and just some review. I come from some background with comprehensive plans and being a former council member in the town I was in prior to McCandless. Last year, I oversaw the project for the Pitt Capstone. And this is a group of students, and I'm sure I'll probably talk about it for a second tonight as well, but Pitt Capstone. So it's Pitt students that ultimately are working towards a sustainability certificate. And we actually give them projects to do, which actually benefit the town significantly. And they create these projects and then hand them over to us to utilize. So it's a pretty phenomenal project for us. So we're going to get to do it again this year. So I'm looking forward to that again this year. And then I am also working currently on the actual sustainability certificate that McCandless has right now, which is at a gold level. We're looking to maintain, if not increase that gold level to a platinum level, which is what we'll be working with the Pitt students on this year. So anyway, that's me. I don't have any sort of environmental background. I have a marketing and advertising and insurance background. So I don't fall into any of those. I just happen to be pretty passionate about what I'm doing and the benefit that we can all bring to the citizens of the town, even when they don't appreciate it sometimes.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Jonathan.
Absolutely.
We're missing Dr. Tony Kurzman tonight. He's also a relatively new member, I think right before dawn, early fall. And he's been working, he is a professor at the University of Pittsburgh, and Jonathan has been working with him. He actually is the professor for the sustainability certificate course, correct? And so he's worked closely with Jonathan and the students on the sustainability projects for the town. And he's also been working with Bob Grimm in the town on energy, solar energy items, trying to get solar energy and solar panels and at least on the map in the town and try and work through that. So sure, you'll look forward to meeting him next month. Well, I guess next up we'll have the new folks just, introduce yourselves very quickly. You don't have to say anything if you don't want to, or if there's something you're interested in, please feel free to let us know. Matt, go ahead.
Hi, everybody. Well, first of all, thanks so much for your warm welcomes, and I'm really excited to be a part of this. I've been on the committee for a couple of hours or days, I guess we could call it. But I grew up in McCandless. I actually grew up in this house that I live in now. I bought it from my parents back in 2014, and when I moved back from Washington D.C., where I'd lived for about 12 years. By trade, I am an educator, so I was a science teacher for about 10 years, and now work for the National Science Teaching Association on a middle school STEM competition that's sponsored by the U.S. Army. So I taught environmental science for a long time. I attended Penn State to get my degree, and while I was there, took an environmental education class that just sparked my interest, and I've loved it ever since. So I'm pretty passionate about all things environmentally speaking. We try to do a lot of sustainable stuff around my house. I'm really excited about just being able to work here in the town and work on environmental stuff. I've lived here long enough to see wooded spaces turn into shopping centers and houses and all sorts of stuff. So the amount of trees has been reduced greatly since when I was a little kid, but so that's something that I'm really passionate about, making sure that we still have those great woodlands that were around here. Energy usage is a big thing for me as well, so I'm excited to hear that solar energy projects are already underway. I think that I also happen to lease 2 electric cars, and would love to see more electric car charging points around our town, because there really aren't very many of those. And I think that they could be a real benefit to us as we start to see more and more electric vehicles on the road. Yeah, I'm just excited to, glass recycling. I'd love to see glass recycling start happening at a central point, since they no longer pick it up by Waste Management at this point. But so that's a little bit about me. I'm also happy to answer any questions anybody has at any point. So if you ever are like, well, why is he talking about that? Or who the heck does he think he is? Just feel free to send me an email. I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right. Thanks a lot, Matt. And Jack, last but not least, sorry to save you for last, but welcome. We certainly look forward to working with you. I don't know if you want to introduce yourself, or the floor is yours.
It could be dangerous. I'm Irish. It takes me 15 minutes to say hi. It's great to meet such great quality people, such a great committee. I, like Jonathan, have no real experience in the environment. However, I'm very passionate about it. I hunt, I fish, I ski. I'm outdoors as much as I can possibly be. I help with the Vestal Trail that our neighborhood, Oak Ridge, has created and maintained. I moved here 38 years ago from Ross Township, where I grew up. I went local college. I went to Duquesne University. I have a degree in transportation. I'm retired. I worked for the railroad industry for 22 years. They wanted me to move, and I quit, and I reinvented myself and became a banker. And but fortunately, when I went through the railroad, I started off as a brakeman conductor, and I got to take trains all up and down through all the rivers and all the valleys around Western Pennsylvania, all the way to Columbus, Ohio, and in central Pennsylvania. And we live in an incredibly beautiful state. And you couldn't believe how horrible some of the mills and plants were back in the late 70s, early 80s. Now, pretty much that's gone. We've done a really good job in this country getting rid of the big polluters, but there's a lot we can still do locally. I know there's going to be a lot of different initiatives that come down from the state and federal government relative to stormwater. So I'm really glad that, who was it that spoke up to stormwater? I think it was Judy mentioned that. Dawn too. Yeah, Dawn, you live at the bottom of Oak Ridge, right?
I do.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, Jack, I didn't realize we're neighbors, and I didn't realize you're in transportation. I work for FedEx Ground. I'm also in transportation, more the motor carrier side than the rail, but.
Well, I retired 3 years ago. So fortunately, I have the time to donate to the town. I've always felt bad for people that have to go to work and then come back and work for the town. You know, there's only so much time in a day, and you know they're robbing their families of some of their time, and they don't get to eat proper meals and what have you. Well, I have the time, so if you guys have some heavy lifting that needs to be done, please throw it in my lap. I'm more than willing to roll up my sleeves and work hard to try to accomplish some things. A couple things people mentioned: universities. I happen to have a son that lives in Media, Pennsylvania, and over Swarthmore College has a initiative with the town, I guess it's the town of Swarthmore, where they work together on developing a community park. And the university uses the park to learn about ecosystems and what they can do to manage them. So we've got, well, this is the first I learned that Mr. Allshouse was at University of Pittsburgh. So maybe we could utilize the University of Pittsburgh or La Roche College or CCAC. Maybe we can get some inexpensive labor and some really great knowledge by combining with some of the universities that we have locally. I think that could benefit us a lot. And somebody also mentioned glass. I think we really need to get on that. We're way behind the curve on doing something with glass. When I worked on the railroad, I worked with a company called Basicus, and they actually did glass recycling, and I could contact them. It's interesting how much glass is used for in the commercial world. Like dashboards are full of cullet, which is ground up glass. So I'd like to see this committee be a little more proactive and maybe help out the town in finding a good solution for the glass. As far as the streams around here, do we have a committee that tries to get, I know we have people to go around the town and clean up the town, but how about cleaning up the streams? Like right across the street from you, Dawn, one of the neighbors complained that there's a big pile of debris in Pine Creek. How do we get
there's
that?
a toilet. There's a toilet.
Yeah, there's a toilet.
I think
too.
that's what they're opposing.
Oh, no,
I'm sure.
There's more than that. I mean, in the creek itself, there.
No, true. And
Actually, that whole area there, I think that would be a really great place to put another reservoir, because we get all that water that comes down from Harmony Line and it throws all that debris on the road and what have you. If we could go underneath the road and have some kind of a little reservoir there, I think that could be beneficial, but that might be a little bit above our scope. Just some thoughts. Thoughts.
Well, there's, when we took the group took a walk, I think that was back in May. I wasn't part of the group yet, but I went on the walk as a master watershed steward and also as an NAEC member. And we talked about there's catch basin, you know which catch basin I'm talking about, Jack, when you first walk onto Vestal Trail. To your left there. It's not engineered.
It doesn't hold any water.
Yeah, and so, but we have that horrible flooding that really starts at Oak Ridge and goes down. And so if they could somehow connect during overflow times, the creek to re-engineer it slightly to connect it to that basin and have some of it drain out that way, that might be an option. Someone on the NAEC suggested that we talk to the town engineer about that. Your reservoir idea is a good idea because I know exactly the problem that you're talking about. And then in the wintertime, it freezes and people wreck constantly as they come around that bend. So yeah, it's an issue. There's probably a couple different agencies to get involved, because I think if we're dealing with the road, then we have to deal with PennDOT, right? But But yeah, there's definitely work to be done.
Well, great. I look forward to working with you.
Yeah, I do too. I'll have to give you a call sometime and we'll chit chat.
My number's real easy to remember. It's the same forwards as it is backwards.
We're being recorded. I don't know if you want to share.
I don't care. Anybody can call me. I'm in the phone book. It's
Okay.
935-6539.
639.
Very cool.
It's always
How
my
lucky
option
you
to
are.
answer the phone or not. Yeah. I had that for about 5 years before I figured it out.
All right. Well, thanks so much, everyone, for nice introductions, and look forward to having a full committee. It's been a while. We seem to always be trying to catch up, but I think we've got a really great group, and looking forward to it. And Jack, you don't worry. We'll we'll throw some things at you. We appreciate
Good.
your offer to help, because we always need somebody active working with us in the town. So, all right, well, I'll move on to some other agenda items then. First is approval of the minutes from December. Does anybody have any questions or comments, additions on the minutes? No. We have a motion to approve.
I so moved.
Motion to approve.
A second.
I second.
All right. All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Or raise your hands. I have to figure out how to do this again virtually. All right, minutes are approved. Now we move on to project updates and discussion items. We don't have a ton of projects up for discussion. We're coming out of the holidays, and I know we don't generally get a whole lot done in the month of December. But I know Dave asked to go ahead and give an update and a little overview of the litter cleanup program that he put together.
Yep, so hopefully this is only about 2 or 3 minutes worth, but the litter cleanup was one of our first projects. We did the first volunteer roadside litter cleanup in the spring of 2018. Since then, it's been 4 years. We've done 7 events. We've had between 30 and a maximum of 100 volunteers. 100 volunteers is not much from a population of almost 30,000. So getting volunteers is a huge issue for us. Usually we range high school kids trying to get service hours and senior citizens, you know, people that are either 17 and 18 years old or 65 and 70 years old. We have kept a tally of how much litter has been collected. Right now, we're between 1,300 and 1,400 bags of litter that we've collected over those 4 years. The EAC has also adopted the McKnight-Ingomar interchange. You may have seen the blue rectangular Adopt the Highway signs there. That's under PennDOT's Adopt the Highway program. So what that is you commit to twice a year picking it up. So it's quite a task. It usually takes 2 full days to pick up the interchange, because you've got 3 different on-ramps or off-ramps plus sections of McKnight Road to do. My own experience is you pick it up Saturday. On Sunday, you drive by and there's cups and a bag there. It only stays clean for about a day. So that's just part of the beast. This spring, we have dates for our cleanup. Our thought was to have 2 dates, April 9th, Saturday, April 9th, and Saturday, April 23rd. That's the Saturday before Easter weekend and the Saturday after Easter weekend. Figuring if we have 2 events, we might get more volunteers. We've got a lot of ground to cover. And maybe some of those people will repeat, you know, come both days. So we're just going to try it out, see how it works out. Last fall, we tried having door prizes. One of our litter folks, Lynn Atman, went around and got donations of gift cards and certificates and those kind of things. And we had a drawing for those kind of prizes. So that helped out also. So why do we focus on litter? It's a community pride issue. There's a model out there on the internet that says that your property value, the cleanliness of the community might contribute to 5 to 10% of your property value. So if your house is, you have a $200,000 house, maybe $10 or $20,000 of it is related to how clean the community is. I don't know, it's a model, it's not, data. Litter clogs up storm drains. A lot of increased maintenance. We all see catch basins, drain inlets that are covered with leaves and litter. It's ultimately washed into waterways, mainly Pine Creek. One thing that Jack mentioned is we have never done a litter walk through Pine Creek. We just haven't been able to. Another thing that Tony Kurzman is a lot more familiar with is the degrading of the plastics into what are called microplastics. Microplastics get into the water, they get into the food chain, fish, wildlife impacts in terms of that. So it's not just an aesthetic type of thing, it is an environmental issue for us. Some of our local issues, development increases litter. McCandless, to me, McCandless is a destination for vehicles and people. Vehicles and people bring litter. McCandless Crossing, Lowe's, LA Fitness, the restaurants, Passivant, La Roche, CCAC, all the senior citizen housing, all the people that work there, they all come into and through McCandless. Most of our litter is really falls on what I call our main streets. And the unusual thing is that our main streets are not controlled by the town. They're controlled by usually PennDOT, sometimes the county. McKnight, Perry Highway, Pine Creek Road, Ingomar Road, Babcock, Peebles, Cumberland, Rochester are all out of control of the town. So litter pickup on those areas, it's 100% volunteer effort. PennDOT doesn't pick up litter. Allegheny County doesn't pick up litter. The town crews do not pick up litter. It's the responsibility solely rests on volunteers. That's the way it is. PennDOT's Adopt the Highway program in McCandless is not effective. 2/3 of the folks that adopt sections of the highway do not participate in the program. We've had probably 4 or 5 discussions with PennDOT through Representative McCurry's office to try to purge these groups from the Adopt the Highway program so that other groups can take over those areas. It's just not going to happen. One of our initiatives is to get the Adopt the Highway program under local control rather than PennDOT control, but we'll see how that goes. Because those Adopt the Highway groups are not active anymore, our volunteers have to cover those areas. So that's why we need so many volunteers, as we're covering McKnight Road, we're covering Perry Highway, Pine Creek Road, all these other roads. So we have a group, right now we have 4 people that are what we call a task force, myself and 3 other citizens that have been meeting with town officials. We've met with Representative McCurry. We met with Turzai back when he was in office. We've met with Senator Williams. We've met with District Magistrate Wagner. We've met with PennDOT a couple times. That's really has not gone very well. So it's pretty much useless to to meet with them anymore. Those are some, just a flavor of some of our main issues that we deal with. There's a lot of phone calls, there's a lot of emails. We have folks that, you know, the bank in front of Lowe's is dirty, is full of litter. So we have to call up McCandless Crossing or Lowe's to clean it up. Same thing with Outback. Same thing with Barrel Subaru. Some of these places are just, you know, Sheets and Get Go and Giant Eagle, just always have to be on them to clean up their areas. Sometime when we have time, I can tell you about the sign ordinance. That's a whole other deal. But anyway, that's another thing. One interesting thing that's come about just in the past few days, the Franklin Park EAC has been in contact with us for advice in organizing their own litter cleanup this spring. So that's pretty cool thing. You know, they recognize that McCandless has volunteers out there and are trying to do a great job. So the fellow from the EAC said they've actually had citizen complaints about the litter in Franklin Park. So that's what brought about the EAC getting involved in that. So we'll see how that goes. Maybe we can do it the same day, or have some kind of competition.
Competition, yeah.
That's great.
That'll be pretty cool.
All right.
That was my 2 or 3 minutes on litter, but you know, it's been 4 or 5 years of this. I doubt there's folks that know more about actually picking up litter than most of us do. Myself, Dawn, some of our other regulars. You know, a lot of stories about what's out there.
Oh, thank you, Dave. We certainly appreciate your passion for this, because it's makes a huge difference.
I asked Dave a question.
Yeah.
Excuse me, but what does the town do to support you in the endeavor to keep the Lowe's and these different businesses clean? Do we fine them? Do we send out anybody from the town to say, hey, you have so many hours to clean it up? Or do we fine, or can we fine, or?
Not that I've heard of. I mean, we've got a new code enforcement officer, Shannon Vincent. He's been part-time. I was hearing that he was going to go to full-time, but the last I heard is that he's still part-time. A lot of that comes under the code enforcement arm of the town. To be honest, I don't know what he's done in terms of fines or anything like that. Dawn, you know what?
Well, I know, I hate to say I was any way involved in the sign ordinance, because the whole thing went sideways in my opinion, but I was involved in the sign ordinance, and I know the issue there when we tried to, you know, put in enforcement pieces, everyone wanted to shy away from that. They're really, you know, are reluctant to sort of give businesses a hard time. I think there's a reluctance to enforce, and definitely a reluctance to assess fines. I was sort of for it, but yeah, I get why there's a reluctance, but there is a reluctance. New council people, so maybe it's different now. I don't know.
Maybe there's tacit ways we can do it. You know, maybe just a letter from Bob Grimm saying, we need you to clean this up. I would appreciate it if you would.
That's what I've always thought, you know, at least have a presence, a sort of, you know, if you know someone's looking over your back.
Absolutely.
More.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Shannon reacts to, you know, I see things just driving around town. I don't know if he drives around town and sees something and acts on that, or whether it has to come through a complaint or an email or something like that. And then he goes out, and then it starts the whole procedure of taking pictures, coming back, documenting stuff. Do we write a letter? Do I make a phone call? There's certain, administrative type steps that have to be followed, as opposed to just, knocking on the door and saying, hey, I'm from the town. Can you, clean this up? A more informal type of approach. I don't know. Everything, it seems to be a formal procedure that, they have to follow. So I think that slows down enforcement and yeah.
We also have a website we could maybe, I noticed on the website, and it needs to be updated. We did give accolades to people like Crest Tire for recycling oil and what have you. Maybe we could have a naughty and nice list.
Yeah, we've suggested that. We've had meetings with Bob Grimm before. We have another one the week after next. We've given him a laundry list of suggestions and ideas, and that was one of them. And we have to check in and see if anything's being moved forward or not.
Okay, I'll get with Bob and I'll get with Shannon, see what I can find out.
Okay.
All right, thanks. Any other questions for Dave? All right, thank you,
Sorry.
Dave.
Judy, I'm sorry. I just have one question. This may be a more general question, but
Sure.
this conversation made me think of it. Do we have anybody who is in charge of like social media or anything along those lines? John is?
Yeah, I do most of the social media, websites, other things like that.
Okay, just because I know that personally, like picking up litter is something that I find incredibly important. I had no idea this was happening, and I'm a person who is looking for that type of thing. Kind of. I mean, not if I was actively seeking it, I would have found it, I'm sure. But I feel like there's a chance that litter is one of those things that people ignore, right? Like they just don't see it because they don't want to see it. And I'm sure with many of our projects, there's a lot of stuff where there's a lot of people who just don't know about it. And if there's some way to get it more in the face of the constituents, that there's a better chance of getting more volunteers and things along those lines. So I had a couple other things that I kind of jotted down some notes about. And David, if you don't mind, I'll send you an email with some of that stuff. I don't want to take the time now, but just the idea of just getting more communication out there, somehow getting it, forced Facebook ads or whatever it might be, just to get people to know about it, I think would be really valuable.
Yeah, I think definitely doing the paid ads would be a new thing, because this is one of those ongoing battles that I've had since I started with the town. It's just like when you put something out there, particularly on social media, the reach is going to vary wildly and kind of unpredictably at times. Like our advertisements, when we do the cleanup, they have pretty low reach. The biggest reach really is when we share the photos and the tally afterwards, and people are like, oh, this is great. But then from those folks, there's not a lot of follow through when it comes down, 6 months later.
John,
So,
do you think that leading up to some of the litter cleanup events, we could post some of those either prior post or pictures from some past cleanups that we maybe haven't posted yet?
that would actually be a big help.
Yeah, and just sort of say, hey, last year we got this, and show some pictures, and then let them know, oh, we have this cleanup coming up in a month. Because here's the other thing with social media, right? Like with Instagram, I know that the town's Instagram account's fairly young, fairly new, right?
About a year.
Or maybe a year.
Mhm.
And I honestly, I get on there periodically, but I can't honestly say that I know how often we post content. But with any social media account, constant content is going to get a lot more traffic and a lot more. So if we can sort of build up some hype in advance, it gives us more posting. And in any way that we can help you with that, what kind of files do you need to do an Instagram post beyond, if you're doing something beyond like a picture, if you would need a graphic, like
I use InDesign for that.
what is it, InDesign?
InDesign, yeah, Adobe InDesign.
Okay, because I'm starting to mess around with like Canva and things like that. So
That's also, If it's a
Yeah, if
PDF or a
there's-
photo, you can do anything with that. So
If we can help you feed, if we can help feed you some of that, the material that you need to post to help you so that you're not having to create the actual content, that might be helpful too. But I think that would go a long way
Mm.
towards helping to get the word out there to folks. If we, maybe a month in advance, if we start.
Mhm. I would say even like 6 weeks in advance, probably we can start doing it maybe
I love
weekly
it.
and then try to do it a few times the last week. Because we've had a lot of
Maybe-
success with that the last year with some of the events. So
Yeah,
I'm trying
Dave,
this.
I'll circle back with Dave and with the litter subcommittee folks and see if we can't get some old pictures pulled and things like that and get you some stuff teed up. Be in a
Yeah.
position to just post, each week or something, so you have it in the hopper.
Oh
So,
yeah, I can look through my photos too.
okay,
There's no more litter subcommittee. That died.
oh, well,
That's
your
a whole
task
nother
force,
story.
the task force.
Yeah.
Lynn, I'll just say it, Lynn. I'll
Right.
take the pictures.
All right, anything else with litter? All right, great discussion. Thanks, everyone. I've misplaced my agenda. All right, the next item up is Jonathan, the Pitt Capstone project. Guess you worked with Tony to come up with some new stuff.
Yeah, I mean, new stuff in the sense that it's new year,
Right.
new student. So new opportunity for us. I'm happy to send the last year's kind of follow-up email that was sent to the committee to all the new members so that you can see what they accomplished last year. That being said, this year, after having some conversations with Tony and then sending out an email to this team, to this committee, we really are going to pursue the students doing their project around the sustainability certification through Sustainable Pittsburgh or Sustainable PA. So we're excited about that. I've had some correspondence back and forth with the gentleman who runs the program and specifically the certification part. He is going to give us some early access to the requirements, which are all going to be new. So Matt and Dawn, these are all new requirements going into 2022. We will have about 2 years to formalize our project, right? To either keep our gold level or to move forward into the platinum. What we heard is that it's going to be significantly more challenging. So hopefully that 2 years will be enough time. Now, those changes that are occurring now, the past changes, they were in place for years and years and years. So we're, according to at least my information that I've received, is that once we get these new project guidelines and we move forward with it, that those will also stay for a significant period of time, probably 5 to 7 years, if not longer. So that's why they're taking this much time to really get some perspective on what that should look like in the next almost decade. That being said, so the relationship that we have with the Pitt students, we're going to ask them to develop a project around the new information that's out there and help us to at least get the ball rolling on what that might look like, the start of some projects, or even just creating kind of a project outline, things that we've already accomplished, what that looks like, just to continue those, and then how we progress with the new projects. So the thing is that timing is really important on this. We're not actually going to be getting that information until the end of this month. The students are picking their projects probably in this coming week. So I had to write just a little synopsis about what we're doing. Then they'll accept the projects. Then we have to start talking about the projects. I'm hoping that it all falls within that time frame. And like I said, we're getting an early version of that.
It's the worst.
Jonathan, I think we lost you.
I wonder if he knows.
I don't know.
Like my worst fear, I'll get frozen in some,
Still in the list, still in the participation list, so I don't know if he
You don't
dropped
look
out, he
like
dropped out of there.
you don't look like you can get frozen, but Judy looks like she can.
There he is.
Oh, there he
Yeah,
is.
You're muted now.
Sorry, I don't know how long I was gone. So
Oh, wow.
a while. Okay. So ultimately, we have the Pitt students that are going to be working on the project. With the new guidelines, we have some timing issues that we're trying to work through to make sure that the students get the new guidelines, since we're getting an early version of them in January. February, they're supposed to actually come out to the public. So I'm going to make sure that we have some sort of backup plan if the timing doesn't work out perfectly. But other than that, it should be really good. It'll help us to really push that agenda forward. If not, then we're kind of starting with just the old stuff, and then we would have to kind of come up with a plan for the new. In a sense, they'll be developing that plan for us, which should kickstart the agenda moving into the next 24 months. So that's it. I'll keep everybody in line, just like last time. We had the Pitt students who wanted to participate, and they wanted to come to one of the EAC meetings to explain what they were doing and how they were doing it. They also will participate in a council meeting as well to kind of give final projects. So I'll just be the liaison between that. And obviously now working with Tony, that'll be an advantage because he's on the EA committee as well. So we definitely have that insider perspective. But it's fun and it's interesting, and they're really passionate about it because they're college students, they want it and they want to pass the class, they want to do well in the class. So they push hard, and the last year's project that they came out with was pretty incredible. The data, the research, the willingness to do the right thing was definitely evident in what they presented to us. So that's it. Sorry about the delay in the middle of whatever I was saying. But that's it. If you have any questions, please feel free. You can always email me, text me, call me. I mean, I'm available.
Oh, thank you so much, Jonathan. I know this is a huge undertaking between, taking on both the sustainability certification and the capstone project. But I think it's great how you've managed to kind of pull them both together and let the kids kind of kick it off for us. So that's great.
Great, thanks.
And I'd say, don't forget about Shelley as a resource
Right.
In terms of the sustainability, because that's, she was in charge of that the first time and knows where all the information is and all of that. And she'd be, and of course, in the December meeting, she asked to be involved in that and to continue on that. So just let's not forget about her.
Thanks, Dave. Yeah, absolutely. I've definitely have her on my list to kind of keep in the loop. Once we had this moving and we had some momentum with the students, I would probably bring her in to kind of get some perspective as well of what they're producing and see if it fell in line with some of the experience that she had, and then kind of pull her in towards the end as well because I know she said she would be willing to participate in our forward momentum those next 2 years. So hopefully she'll want to continue that as well. So thank you, Dave. I appreciate that.
Thanks. And John, I know you were pretty active in the last one too. That was before my time. I came in just around the time that the grades and everything were coming out. And I know didn't we have an intern?
Yeah, Macy.
It helped. But it sounds like the students may be able to do for us at least part of what the intern did for you. So Okay, anything else with Capstone project or sustainability? Good. Okay, next up, Ken, with an update on our Wall Park Trail grant situation.
Okay, I talked with Jeff and just to pick up the pieces of what he was doing and I guess Don has the part with the landowner down at the bottom of Harmony Drive there. The Wall Park Trail is something that we started looking at, going through all of our deeds and all that of what we were allowed to do. And with Trail Pittsburgh, John Stevens and I, it pretty well mapped out what we could do. And then the menu changed, and we've gone through 4 years of applying for grants and things. And unfortunately, both the grant requests were denied here in the last month. So I've gotten back in touch with John Stevens about putting a trail in that is primarily avoiding the wetlands so that we avoid that issue. And so then it's going to be something that moms can't walk with their baby carriages, but it'll be appropriate for hiking and mountain biking, going from the sports fields up to the, for lack of a better term, the dump at the top of Harmony Hill there. And then also looking at trying to connect that to Potter Park and down to Vestal. So that's all. I will be working on that. I've talked with Bob about moving ahead with that, and he's in favor of moving ahead with that. This is kind of almost probably more appropriate in new business, but it was brought up, doing a litter thing on Pine Creek. I think that's something that would be well worth doing. And our current litter pickups are, spring and fall, and that's one that would actually be best to do in the middle of summer when the water level's low. And I think that's something we can bring in, like NAAC involved in it and everything too. So I think that's a very good project for us to pick up and look at, looking at the litter in Pine Creek. So the trail is, I'll have more information once John Stevens and I have a chance to walk through. When we talked about it before, when we were working on that, basically he uses a crew that are guys that just got let out of prison and need to get their feet on the ground back in society. And so they get a job helping to build the trail. And he felt at that time, and this is 4 years ago, that it would be about $20,000. So that's just all ballpark and hearsay at this point. We'll see where things go as we get into it a little more. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Ken. Do you think it would be appropriate at this point? I know the original project form was done, I don't know, several years ago. Do you think it's changed enough or morphed into something that we should kind of start fresh, new project form, new direction?
I'd actually say go back to the original one.
Oh, okay. All right. I'll pull that out. I'll be going through our annual report this coming week, and I'll pull that out and see how it looks.
So if I could interject, something to think about. I work for FedEx Ground Corporate out in Robinson, and the Hollow Oak Land Trust owns a patch of land right by FedEx Corporate. And so they partnered with us to have volunteers from corporate come and help build a trail that they built through this patch of woods down to the Montour Trail Creek, whatever. And that was actually a pretty successful project. They did a couple corporate sent volunteers out over a number of weeks on a number of different days, and through volunteer labor dug out the trail. So I don't know if we could potentially try to partner with somebody, some big business in McCandless to potentially, because if the bigger the business, a lot of times they're looking for volunteer opportunities for their people, might be an idea. So.
I think that would be more on maintenance as we go down the road with this Wall Park Trail. There's tons of invasive species that I'll be working on, getting a project, working on that and going into Potter Park also. Those things are down the road, getting that together. Right now, the suburban whitetail hunters are still hunting deer in Wall Park, so that's for another week or two yet. So it's a matter of sequencing things along. With the trail going through, because the land that was donated to the township was what can't be developed, which means it's too big a slope to build houses on. So I'm not sure that volunteers are going to want to do the work that it takes to build the trail on those slopes and things like that. That's much more work than it is when you've got nicer terrain.
I'd like to make a comment to your point, Don. When I worked at US Bank, we were always looking for similar projects that you're speaking of. Now, maybe it won't be construction, but maybe the maintenance, but there's certainly organizations out there that we can go out to. I can reach out to FMBPA. I think they would probably be real receptive to the idea of having an employee engagement to try to help with the community.
Yeah, I mean, I can even talk to FedEx Ground as well. I hear what you're saying, Ken, but we were actually out there with pickaxes, what do they call them? I forget the tools we were using. We were literally digging into the hillside. We did some invasive species removal too, but it was very manual labor and people were into it. So.
And the other part too is that John Stevens is part of Trail Pittsburgh. There's a whole bunch of people there that also are, this is passion, is building trails and laying them out and building them. It's a good idea, but I think that we're not close enough to being able to look at that at this point in time. You know, it's a work in progress. We'll see where things go. I have to get together with John and go walk through that again and see what we can actually do.
All right. Any other questions for Ken? Dave?
Ken, if you do, I'm thinking with, you know, Matt and Jack and myself, maybe with some of the new folks. Jack says he's an outdoorsman. Maybe can we do a walk of where the trail might be? I don't know. Dawn maybe hasn't seen that also. I don't have
That'd be great.
I don't have an orientation of what we're thinking. You know,
Love that.
You're talking about going back to kind of the original plan. So I think if we did, you know, another walkthrough, maybe that's just with you or with John. If you're saying you need to do that with John, that's fine. But if you can let us know about that, that'd be cool. I think for some of us to tag along.
Yeah, it's going to go through my backyard, so I'm excited about it. It's right down the hill from right behind me. It's the ravine that trail is going to go through, I believe, based on what you're talking about from Wall down to
great.
that
Awesome.
dumping site. So yeah.
Are there any issues with landholders that we have to be concerned about?
When we originally did this, we reviewed all the deeds. The only real restriction that there is if we're trying to connect to go over to Potter, the one landowner up at the top there wants some trees planted to screen the trail so that they maintain their privacy.
That's fair.
But other than that, there isn't much. Later this spring, like in the winter, it's
Treacherous.
you want to walk right now anyway, but later this spring we can do that and do a couple hours on Wall Park, do a walk on Potter Park and also Vestal. Take an afternoon to do all three of those if you're able to walk a couple of miles in the woods, and remembering that there's in Wall Park there's no trail, so it's steep terrain and there's no trail, so you have to be ready to just hoof it through the woods, so to speak.
Oh, I think that's a great idea, Ken, if you'd be willing to
Yeah.
lead.
I think we're all mountain goats. Right? I'm a
Yeah,
mountain goat.
Sounds like a fun day to me.
Okay, we'll plan on something this spring, like in March or so, when the weeds are still down and
Mhm.
there's nothing else going on.
All right, we can take a look at those chestnut trees out there.
Pick mushrooms.
Yeah, I have a chestnut planting in the middle there that Judy helped me to plant, so.
All right, thank you very much, Ken. That's all we have for the project updates. Next are some updates on some community outreach. First item there is Dawn to talk a little bit about, I guess, Winterfest, and if you have anything on the Adam Butler property, great. If not, just a quick rundown. But first thing I want to do is thank Dawn for organizing our Christmas tree at Winterfest. I thought that went over well. I had fun helping to decorate. I thought the tree looked great. So thank you very much.
And the fireworks from that are right in the middle of my living room. So, I mean, I can just turn the lights off and sit in a chair and watch the fireworks.
I'm coming over next year, Ken, because I miss the fireworks and that's looking forward to the most. I can't see them from my house. So the tree went really well, and we tried to use ornaments that were all nature-based. And so I'll save the photographs and the design or the recipes or whatever you want to call them for the different ornaments that we made. But I do want to talk just real quick about, so there were like the Lototomy Nature Center folks had a table there, and there were a few other folks that had a table, and the Lototomy people brought different animal skins and things like that. And it was really nice because they focused their outreach table to be more towards families and children, and the kids seemed to be into it. But I'd like to talk about having the EAC maybe have some sort of interactive table at next year's Winterfest. I think if nothing else, we could use that as a great opportunity to try to do some watershed and stormwater outreach and education. We can come up with a couple different things to do, different activities for different age groups. I'm glad that Matt's on our committee now because he's an educator, and he would probably be great at helping to come up with some ideas. But I know as part of my watershed training, we did a little bit with coming up with different, activities that help different age groups understand just general basic concepts about the watershed. So, if we could do something like that, have maybe, like a table with some activities for the kids, I think that might be nice. And along those same lines, during the McCandless, what do we call it? Community Days, I think the McCandless Community Days event in September, also thinking about doing that same kind of thing at our booth there, having some different activities that are educational or outreach type things for different age groups. And so I'd be happy to start to put together some ideas about things. And I thought potentially something that might come out of it is, maybe we could even have one of the activities be that kids help make some of the ornaments that we'll then use to decorate the EAC tree with for Winterfest. Some of the craft kind of stuff.
Yeah, I know we've had a table at Community Days before. I think are they even doing Community Days anymore, John? I didn't know if I saw it on the schedule on the calendar.
The date isn't picked out, but I think the intention is still to do it.
Okay.
There was some discussion about maybe trying it in August this time, but that's a separate committee.
Okay, and we also at one point had a table, Gardens in the Park.
Nice.
In North Park, and I don't think they've had that the past 2 years. And I think we've had some nature kits and some sorts of things, but that's great to start focusing on that again. Hopefully they'll start opening these events back up.
Ken, maybe we even have like one of the educational things that we could do is about the American chestnut. And potentially maybe we could have kids even plant, we could have little Dixie cups or whatever and some soil. If we could get some chestnut seeds, I don't know, send kids home with chestnut plantings.
I think that the chestnut folks had their own table.
Oh, did they? Nice.
Yeah,
okay, well, I don't want to interfere with the chestnut.
When they know,
Sure.
yeah, I've always had a table at that. There's the leadership at the Master Gardeners has changed, so I'm not sure what they're going to be doing.
Okay.
But if they notify me about that, then I'll get back in touch with Judy and so that EAC can have a table there. I'm not sure that I want to do the chestnut table all by myself again, but it's
I'll help.
that Master Gardeners in the Park is what they call it up by the cannon. It gets an awful lot of people passing through it. It's a very good good way to do some public relations.
Yeah.
That is a nice event. I've been to that before. That's, when is that usually?
It's normally in
August.
August. Yeah.
Thank you.
August when all the flowers are out.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'll try and keep in touch. And you too with I had checked the websites for the Master Gardeners last year and never did see it come up. But we'll need to, hopefully some of these events will start coming back at some point and we'll have to get back into our tables. But I'm glad to see you interested, Dawn. Thanks. And coming up with some activities for us.
So there's that. And then just real quick, I did make contact with Adam Butler, Jack Casey, just so you know who we're talking about, right across from, my house. You come down Oak Ridge and you're at the intersection of Harmony Drive, straight across from you. Adam Butler bought that property. So I'm on your left and Adam's across the street on your left. As you come down Oak Ridge and you're meeting the intersection of Pine Creek Road. And that little section of his property there that butts up against Harmony Road, they're thinking about wanting to do something green space like in that area, potentially with or without the community's involvement. And so I have made contact with him. We agreed to get back together after the holidays were over to start our discussions back up. The first thing that we're going to do is put together, he made that video, but I think we need to grab a map and sort of better visualize for everybody on the committee the space that we're talking about. And then I don't know that I'll be ready in February, but probably by March, I think maybe we could have an update to talk about what he's thinking and what we're hoping to maybe do there. But again, what I see that space as being an awesome space for is potentially a space for us to, do some citizen science type stuff, have some just more green space. And again, maybe a community apiary space. I don't know if people are into beekeeping and McCandless or not, but if anyone is in this space.
Actually, we have quite a few neighbors that have certified gardens. So I think we'd have some people up here that would be willing to come down and support that.
Yeah, when I give you a call, Jack, I'll chat you up some more about what Adam's thinking. They're a great family. They're a great couple. So it's exciting. They want to do.
How big is the area?
I see that I need to find out from him from what point to what point he's going to let us mess with. So I don't have an actual square footage or anything like that to share with you at this time.
That's right up on Potter Park.
Yeah, as you're going up to Potter Park, it's that very, very first property. So it was a former pasture, if you can envision, Jack, there's sort of fencing left behind there. I don't know if you ever walk up Harmony to Potter Park, but yeah.
Council actually has some letters from some folks about the road up there and what have you. So there's other people that have some concerns. It might all work together quite well.
Yes. Yeah. Let's chat about this because I know there's a history there. Yeah.
The prior person wasn't too. He didn't like people going through there.
I think there's a
Adam
sign
Butler's
still.
property.
Yes.
You mean? Yes. But Adam's different. So he's going to be agreeable to what we want to, any sort of connectivity thing that we want to do. I'm sure of it. So because he already wants to sort of let us use that space. For
Sure.
Green space type thing. So
Great.
yeah. So I'll have more on the Adam Butler property soon. We've made contact, but because of the holidays, there's been no work.
All right.
And
Thank you,
winter.
Dawn. Yeah. Any other questions for Dawn on that?
I asked a question before
Sorry.
about what's going to happen to those Christmas trees. There's 8 Christmas trees. They're currently sitting out in the tennis courts. Are they just going to sit there all winter? Are they going to die? Should they be inside? Where do we have some input into where they should be or should not be planted, if they can be planted? Or I didn't know if the EAC wanted to give some advice to Jeff Shoneman or DPW or whoever's doing that. I don't know, maybe they're just going to throw them away. I don't know, but what?
I think they're thinking about planting them along McCandless Drive, connecting, Grubbs to Blazier. They have
Right.
that big cleared out area, no utility lines there. I think that was sort of where they were considering a possibility of planting them.
And as long as their roots are, as long as they have some mulch around the roots, they'll be fine for the winter.
Well, they're burlap. That's it. There's burlap around the root ball. I mean,
Yeah, they're sitting in buckets of frozen water right now, or water when it's,
Yeah, they're dormant, they're fine, is the big thing, the mulch is just to keep the roots from desiccating, drying out.
Maybe you
And
could use,
I assume you'll get your ornaments and everything back off that tree at some point.
yeah, I already cleaned it up.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Told me about it, and yeah.
All right. Thanks.
Surprisingly, that there weren't many that made it. The wind and whatnot had blown a lot of things
Oh,
they could, so.
okay. Sorry, Jack, you had something?
yeah, I was thinking, well, maybe you could use those trees up along the trail where that neighbor wants to have a little privacy.
Well,
Get a little head start.
that's at least a year away, to be, we're a long way from that on Wall Park.
Maybe next year.
Very efficient thinking though, Jack. Very
Yeah.
efficient. We got trees.
Waste not, want not.
Okay, anything else on that? All right, then I'll move on to NAEC programs. Jack and Matt, NAEC is the Northern Area Environmental Council. And we've been working closely with them. They've actually been great and coming to us with educational programs and hikes and walks that we're able to put out and publicize to McCandless while they publicize to their folks. So it's starting to be a nice partnership to offer some environmental type programs to our residents. This past Saturday, we had Irwin Run Valley hike. It was about 10 degrees when we met, but it was a beautiful morning. I think Beth told me that there were 22 people that were signed up for the hike, which was pretty nice. About half of those showed up. I kind of figured with the cold and a little bit of snow, but it was very nice. I mean, basically, we just hiked down Irwin Road. Is everyone aware where that valley is? It's off of Babcock, the intersection of Pierce Mill and Babcock, and in North Park. And if you continue on Babcock, like you're going towards Pine, just as you get past that little lake area and the big parking lot on your left, there's a road. There's a sign that says Irwin Road, and it borders the park. And there's land back there that was bought by the Allegheny Land Trust.
A lot of that is good. Irwin Road basically goes through North Park.
Okay.
And then
Yes,
the
Ken was
Allegheny
there.
Land-
Ken was there as well. Thank you, Ken.
And then the Allegheny Land Trust, that's like 70 acres up at the top end there.
Mm-hmm. And so they've been able to purchase that land and keep it as a nature preserve, basically. And you see bikers back there, people walking their dogs. I run back there quite often. So, and they gave us a little bit of the history of how the land came about and what resources are down there. Ken was telling us all what types of trees are down in the valley. And so it was a very nice morning. Too bad more people couldn't come, but I understand it's winter, but it was a very nice morning. So hope to do something like that again.
I apologize. I didn't make that. Somehow it was on my radar and then it fell off. I hope we do more of those. I'll be at them in the future. I apologize for not making that one, but that we're going to start doing those hikes.
Hopefully you could do these fairly regularly.
Mhm.
So the next project we have with them will be in March. We're actually putting on a workshop called streamscaping. The hope right now is that it's actually an in-person workshop in town hall for up to 20 folks, where the NAEC will have speakers and actually talk to landowners. If you have a stream through your property, the proper way to maintain the property up to the stream. And I know, Jack, you probably see that where Pine Creek, people mow right up to the edges of Pine Creek. And then you end up with erosion and Beth, Dawn, you certainly can talk about this as well. But their idea is to have a workshop for folks to learn how to properly plant and maintain the streams through their properties.
When did you want to do that?
This is scheduled for March the 21st.
That's problematic. The town, I was going to get that when you came to me. I might as well tell you now.
Okay.
The town has shut down the town council and all their committees from utilizing our chambers for anything until the end of March. Now, we
Okay.
may change that if the COVID cases start to diminish. But right now, I believe that's the intent.
Okay, well, and we may not have to cancel because the whole intent of this, they realized the situation's kind of fluid, and they also wanted to be prepared for overflow, to have it like a hybrid, but they were prepared to do this virtually if necessary.
Good.
So I thank you for telling me that. I'll get back in touch and let them know that we're going to have to change gears right now, unless they want to put it off to a later date if they really want to try something in person.
And
So
all of that comes into our stormwater management and everything. With you get the proper riparian vegetation down along Pine Creek, you'll have less rapid runoff of the water and flooding and everything like that. So it all plays together.
okay.
That helps.
And John, I'll still need to work with you on links for sign up, but now I'll have to get back to Beth first and see if she wants to change up some of the publicity information and see where we want to go. So I'll get back in touch with you so we can work that out, because she's looking for us to provide the link so she could start the publicity. So that's what we have on tap with NAEC. Other speaker series, go ahead.
Sorry, Judy.
No, go ahead.
So, if we're going to use social media to help advertise the streamscaping, I wonder, is it appropriate or would it be inappropriate for us to also include information about, because Latonomy has, I think you mentioned this before, Latonomy has those lawn to nature kits that you can buy, which are sort of go hand in hand with the streamscaping bit, because it comes with a native plant seed mix and things like that. So maybe would that be appropriate for us to mention that they have these, because that's a partnership with the NAAC that Latonomy is doing to make these kits. Can we also just mention that those are for sale? Or
You're saying just a separate publicity effort?
No, just like a mention in whatever we do. I don't know if that's inappropriate or not, because but they're nonprofit
Right.
groups.
Well,
I
and
don't know. It sort of goes hand in hand. So I didn't know.
Right. And I'll check it out with Beth too, and see if that's something they want to kind of tie together in the publicity, because they're actually providing the information.
Okay. Oh yeah, right. The publicity. So maybe it's in there. But I know I'm planning to purchase one because, you know, I need to do some streamscaping and got a nice
Yeah.
native seed mix from Ernst. So
And I did order one of those
Gonna get
kits,
one, yeah.
so well, I'm looking forward to trying that out in my backyard. I don't have a
Yeah, me
stream,
too.
but but we'll try. Okay, any other questions on the NAEC things? All right, next up is, additional speaker series events, and this is something we had tentatively looked at May, working with Tony and his, I guess the folks that he has access to, putting on some sort of a speaker series event dealing with energy topics. Sounds like he's got quite a few connections, and so that's something I still have to work with him to come up with a topic and a date, hoping, I guess, to hit after his school year is out. So we'll try and time that with him. Okay, that's what I have for community outreach tonight. Some miscellaneous items, January McMail tips. Ken, I believe you're up next.
Okay,
Can you put something together for us this month?
I'll get together with John on that.
Okay, thank you.
Ideally, I'd like to get those maybe by the 18th through the 19th. If possible, it's about a week from now.
Okay,
And
Yeah.
Judy, when am I on the hook for that? February? Am I the February? Am I?
No, well, I'm not sure. You
When?
actually worked with Tony a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
If you want to take it, we're glad to give it to you.
I mean, I will if you want me to, but just like, I just want a little heads up, you know, because
Oh, okay.
I should start to try to think about what.
I think you've got a little while. Normally I go alphabetical.
Okay, good. Okay,
So
good.
I think you're a few months away. I think next will be probably Jonathan and then me. And I guess I also had on the agenda 2021 annual report. I did do an updated annual report for 2020. And I had hoped to spend some time updating it for 2021. I have not gotten to that yet. So what I'm going to do, hopefully here in the next week, I'm going to sit down with last year's report, update it for this report. I mean, for this year, basically it goes through all our active projects and updates where they stand, whether they're still active, whether maybe we think at this point we take them off our list, and also add anything new that we started in 2021. So I apologize, I didn't have that ready. I'll hopefully get that out to everyone. I'll put a draft together, send it out to everybody for review, where you can add, subtract, comment, and then kind of what that does is give us a good base for next month to take a look at where we stand on some projects. We got some new folks here that, you know, maybe can jump on some old ones or add some new ones, and that can be a big part of our discussion next month. Okay.
sounds good.
Sounds good.
All right, and normally we have a little spot here if anybody has any ideas or topics that they'd like to bring up next month. Something I wanted to throw out there for the newer folks. Generally, what we try and do with our reports at our meetings every month is we try and keep them, 5 or 10 minute time frame. But if you have something, a larger report or a lot of information to send out to us, I encourage to send out basically a report to the group before the meeting. And I think, Jonathan sent some good information out last month, and so that we don't have to spend a whole lot of time at the meetings. If there's anything you can send out in advance to keep the meetings running a little shorter, that's always encouraged. So I appreciate that. And also I will remind everybody about a week out from the next meeting to let me know if you have anything for the agenda, because we put the agenda together a week before the meeting. And we try and keep that pretty accurate. Okay, next up is a report from town council. Jack, I'm not sure if you've got a couple of meetings under your belt or anything to report to us.
Well, like I mentioned, we are kind of shutting things down. Everything has to be
Yeah.
done through Zoom. until end of March, unless that changes, and that might. We'll see. We'll see how the flavor of everything goes with COVID. But one thing I did want to mention, and this was actually, I think, 2 meetings before I was sworn in. Joe Wall, who is on the Heritage Committee for the Heritage Town Center, he had petitioned council to put up a sign advertising the Heritage Center. And there was some discussion amongst that previous council about maybe doing more of a generic sign for the community, so that organizations like EAC could then do some advertising on there. And that might be very beneficial. Go into that advertising you talked about earlier, maybe advertise the fact that you're going to be doing a town cleanup and et cetera, et cetera. So I think I'll bring that message back to the council. And that's really all I have to say. But thank you very much. This is an awesome committee. Very pleased to be on it.
Thank you very much. We're thrilled to have you. All right, and normally we have a space here for public comments. I see we don't have any public included in our meeting tonight, so that part's pretty easy. Does anybody else have anything else they would like to discuss or bring up, or? No, good?
I have a question.
Okay.
So maybe based on what you just told us about how these meetings should run and things like that, maybe what I need to do is I can send this out in an email, but can I go ahead and ask to be put on the agenda for next month to present just a couple different citizen science projects that we could maybe
Sure.
Choose to endorse as the EAC and try to put some bodies behind and some advertising hours and get some folks into doing some things. Like there's a great, just real quick, there's like the great backyard bird count and things like that. And there's some first citizen science projects like that we might want to consider taking on or incorporating into some of the other work that we're doing. So I'll email you guys about that, but if we could maybe chat about that at the next meeting, if you want to slap that on the agenda.
Nope, absolutely. Thank you.
That'd be great. Okay, thanks.
Okay, if we don't have any other items for discussion, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I motion to adjourn.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Hi.
We're good. All right, the meeting's adjourned. Thank you so much, everybody, for your time. Have a great month.
A pleasure. Good night, everybody.
Thank you,
Good night.
Judy.